There are places that don't try to impress. They don't advertise loudly. They don't promise a glamorous life. But if you stay long enough, you begin to realize this might be a place to live, not just a place to pass through. Europe today is becoming increasingly expensive. Rents keep rising. The cost of everyday life climbs higher each year. Cities once called dream destinations now feel more like crowded museums, beautiful but exhausting. You arrive, take a few photos, and leave with the quiet feeling that you never truly belonged there. Across the Atlantic, America is growing louder, not just with traffic or busy schedules, but with the noise of pressure. The pressure to move faster, earn more, and constantly worry that if you slow down even for a moment, you'll fall behind. It's called opportunity, but for many it has started to feel like a race with no finish line. And yet the world still holds other countries. Not perfect, not flashy, but calm, sufficient, and real. Places that don't demand you become a different version of yourself just to survive. Slovakia is one of those places. Sitting quietly in the heart of Europe between Austria-Hungary, Poland, and the Czech Republic, Slovakia is not a mass tourism destination. You won't find endless lines of visitors or cities forced to rush just to entertain crowds. This is a country where many people arrive planning to stay a few days, then stretch that stay into weeks, months, and sometimes far longer than they ever expected. Not because Slovakia tries to win you over, but because it gently shows you a different rhythm of life, one where things don't need to be excessive to be enough. And perhaps that quiet rhythm is what leads so many to ask themselves a simple question: could this be the place to begin a slower, lighter, yet more lasting chapter of life? 1. Where is Slovakia in Europe? Slovakia sits right in the heart of Europe, not on the edge, not isolated, but exactly where cultures meet and overlap. From here, just a few hours of driving can take you into Austria-Hungary, the Czech Republic, Poland, or Ukraine. Every direction leads to a different language, a different history, and a different rhythm of life. The capital city, Bratislava, perfectly reflects this unique position. Located along the Danube River, it is less than an hour's drive from Vienna. Two capitals of two different countries, yet offering completely different living experiences. Vienna carries the grand elegance of a former empire, while Bratislava is smaller, quieter, and far easier to breathe in. For many Americans, this can be hard to imagine. In the United States, you can drive for an hour and still be in the same state. In Slovakia, a short drive can take you across a border and into an entirely different culture with its own way of speaking, eating, and living. Historically, Slovakia is a young country in modern political terms. In 1993, it officially separated from Czechoslovakia in a peaceful split, no war, no conflict, just two nations choosing different paths. Yet the history of this land runs far deeper. Over the centuries, Slovakia was shaped by the Roman Empire, the Kingdom of Hungary, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire, leaving visible traces in its architecture, its culture, and even the character of its people. 2. The Slovak people. Quiet yet resilient. Slovak people are not the kind who make a strong impression at first glance. They speak little, avoid showing off, and rarely try to draw attention to themselves. If you come from cultures where people are expected to talk more, smile louder, and constantly prove who they are, the initial silence in Slovakia may feel distant. But this is not coldness, it is restraint. In Slovakia, trust is not built through quick words, but through time. People observe how you live, how you treat your family, your neighbors, and the community around you. Once accepted, that sense of belonging is remarkably strong. Family remains at the center of life. Relationships are not wide, but they are deep. And once you are considered one of us, you are not easily left behind. This way of life is most visible in rural areas and small towns. There many families still bake bread, and cook soup the same way their ancestors did. Not out of nostalgia, but because these methods have been proven across generations. Meals are not just about eating, but about maintaining a slower rhythm of life where people sit together, speak less, and listen more. Compared to the United States, the contrast is striking. In America, you are often expected to perform, to explain who you are, what you do, and how far you've gone. In Slovakia, no one rushes to ask those questions. They simply watch how you live. And for many, that quiet patience creates a rare sense of safety, the feeling that you don't have to become someone else just to be accepted. 3. Slovak women. Subtle, grounded, and respected. When speaking about women in Slovakia, what stands out is not surface-level impressions or familiar compliments. What makes them distinctive begins with how they live. A lifestyle closely connected to nature, shaped by a slower rhythm that respects both the body and the environment. In Slovakia, it's common to see women walking through nearby forests, hiking in the mountains, on weekends, cycling along village roads, or practicing outdoor yoga when the weather allows. These activities are not about performance or appearance. They are simply part of everyday life. Movement is valued not for image, but for long-term health and balance. Eating habits reflect this same mindset. Slovak women tend to eat regular meals and are less dependent on fast food or constant snacking. Meals are moderate, sufficient, and often centered around family routines. It's not about extremes or trends, but about maintaining balance over time. Because of this, the appeal of Slovak women does not come from display or attention-seeking. It comes from the way they live in balance. A quiet, mature presence, steady and enduring, rather than something designed to impress for a brief moment. 4. Architecture and heritage. And Europe not yet over-tourized. If there is one thing that truly sets Slovakia apart from much of Europe, it is the way the country preserves its heritage without spectacle, without turning history into a performance, and without selling it as a tourist product. In Slovakia, heritage does not stand there to impress. It stands there because it has always been there. Across the country, there are more than 100 castles, large and small, on average one for every few tens of thousands of people. Yet they are not rebuilt to look better, nor dressed in bright lights to dazzle visitors. They exist as markers of time, carrying the silence of centuries. Spies Castle, one of the largest castle complexes in Central Europe, and a UNESCO World Heritage Site, is the clearest example. Perched on a vast limestone hill, it tells its story not through words, but through thick stone walls, watchtowers casting long shadows across the valley, and the quiet sense of human smallness in the presence of history. Leaving the stone fortresses behind, the journey leads to Banska Štiavnica, a former mining town tucked into a green valley. Once a major center of gold and silver mining in medieval Europe, it also became a birthplace of Slovakia's technical ingenuity. What makes this town remarkable is not only its preserved architecture, but the Tajci water system, dozens of artificial reservoirs connected by channels, tunnels, and ditches stretching over hundreds of kilometers. Built to collect rain and melting snow in a region without major rivers, this system powered mining operations with quiet efficiency. A humble, intelligent solution, much like the spirit of the people who created it. And then there are the wooden churches of the Carpathians, where sound itself seems to slow down. Built entirely from wood with no nails and no cement, these structures rely solely on craftsmanship and faith. Every curved dome and carved wall carries the imprint of religious freedom of small communities determined to preserve their beliefs during periods of strict control. They are not grand or imposing, but they are deep, enduring, and sincere. Slovakia does not show off its heritage. It does not try to overwhelm you. It simply allows history to stand quietly in place, and if you are patient enough to listen, that heritage will speak for itself. 5. Everyday life. Enough without excess. Excess daily life in Slovakia is not designed to make you run faster every year. Things move at a steady human pace, not rushed, not forced, and rarely pushing people toward exhaustion. Mornings begin quietly with a small cup of coffee, calm streets, and the feeling that no one is demanding you be somewhere immediately. For many Americans, this can feel like a major shift. In the United States, you often work to pay for stress, higher housing costs, expensive insurance, unpredictable medical bills, and the constant fear that one small problem could disrupt everything. In Slovakia, work still matters, but it serves a different purpose, maintaining a stable life. You work enough to live, not live only to work. Slovak cities are built at a scale that feels right for people. They are not so crowded that they become overwhelming, but not so quiet that they feel isolated. You can walk from your home to a shop, a cafe, a park, or a tram stop within minutes. Life is not stretched thin by exhausting commutes, and more personal time remains intact. For older adults, or for anyone thinking about slowing down, Slovakia offers a sense of safety and familiarity. There is no pressure to chase trends, no need to constantly consume in order to feel successful. Just a steady rhythm, close connections, and an environment quiet enough to hear your own thoughts. Here enough does not mean lacking, it means fitting just right. 6. Cost of living. Realistic, no rose-tinted promises. When talking about the cost of living in Slovakia, the most important thing is to be honest about reality. This is not an ultra-cheap paradise, and Slovakia does not try to present itself as one. But compared to much of Western Europe, and especially compared to the United States, living costs here are far more manageable. In the capital Bratislava, renting a one-bedroom apartment in the city center typically ranges from about $500 to $700 per month, depending on location and condition. If you are willing to live in the suburbs or quieter residential areas, rent can drop to around $350 to $500. These neighborhoods are still well connected by public transport and only require a few extra minutes of travel while offering noticeably lower costs and more breathing space. Food expenses reflect the same enough philosophy. If you cook at home, a single person can expect to spend around $250 to $300 per month on basic groceries. Seasonal vegetables, milk, bread, eggs, and locally sourced meat are reasonably priced. Eating out is not a luxury. A simple meal at a casual restaurant usually costs between $6 and $9, while a mid-range restaurant averages around $15 to $25 per person. Coffee at a local cafe ranges from $1.50 to $3, not shockingly cheap, but affordable enough to enjoy regularly without hesitation. Public transportation is another strong advantage. Buses, trams, and city trains run efficiently with single rides, typically costing under $1, and monthly passes priced around $25 to $30. In major cities, it is entirely possible to live comfortably without owning a car. In rural or mountainous areas, however, having a personal vehicle offers greater convenience. It's important to be clear, Slovakia is not as cheap as Southeast Asia. You won't live like a king on just a few €100 a month. But compared to Western Europe or the United States, where rent, healthcare, and insurance can consume most of your income, Slovakia offers a far better balance. For retirees or anyone with a stable monthly income of around $1,600 to $2,000, life here is not only possible but comfortable, especially in smaller cities where costs are lower, the pace is slower, and financial pressure rarely dominates daily life. 7. Healthcare. A major advantage for older adults. For many older adults, healthcare is no longer a secondary detail. It becomes the foundation of peace of mind. And in Slovakia, the healthcare system provides that reassurance in a very different way from what many Americans are used to. Slovakia operates a public healthcare system based on mandatory insurance. Once you are a legal resident and enrolled, basic services such as visits to a general practitioner, routine treatment, and primary care are typically covered. Public hospitals can be busy at times, but the overall standard of medical training is solid, following European norms. What makes the system especially comfortable is the parallel presence of private clinics. For those who prefer shorter waiting times or need services such as dental care, advanced diagnostics, or specialist consultations, private care is widely available and not prohibitively expensive. A private doctor's visit often costs no more than a dinner at a mid-range restaurant, rather than an expense that forces months of financial planning. Compared to the United States, the contrast is stark. In America, a single doctor's visit can turn into a financial shock, confusing bills, complex insurance rules, and constant uncertainty about the final cost. In Slovakia, a medical appointment is simply that, an appointment. You go in, receive care, and leave without carrying anxiety about what it will cost you. This clarity and moderation make Slovakia particularly appealing for older adults. Not because the healthcare system is perfect, but because it is good enough, transparent enough, and accessible enough to allow you to focus on living rather than worrying every time you need to see a doctor. 8. Nature and rest. Genuine healing. Step away from the rhythm of the cities, and Slovakia opens into an entirely different space, one where nature is not packaged as an experience, but exists as a natural part of everyday life. With only a short journey, you can find yourself surrounded by mountains, forests, and valleys that remain remarkably untouched in modern Europe. In the north, the high Tatras rise with rugged peaks, crystal-clear lakes, and cool, refreshing air. In summer, it becomes a haven for hikers, quiet walks, and moments of stillness in the mountains. In winter, the region takes on a different character, calm yet alive, with small towns tucked beneath the peaks, and a pace far gentler than Europe's crowded resort destinations. A little further on, Slovak Paradise National Park offers a completely different kind of experience. There are no smooth paths or luxury comforts here, but narrow gorges, small waterfalls, wooden bridges, and metal ladders that guide you deep into the forest. It is not a place for rushing, but one that naturally slows you down, asking you to focus on each step and every breath. And when the body truly needs rest, Piešťany, Slovakia's most famous spa town, offers a form of healing rooted in tradition. Thermal mineral waters, therapeutic mud treatments, and quiet parks have drawn visitors here for more than a century. There is no spectacle, no excess, only a calm environment that allows both body and mind to recover. Slovakia does not sell a dream. It simply gives you the space to heal, and sometimes that is the most valuable gift of all. 9. Who it's for and who it's not. Slovakia is not a place for everyone, and that clarity is actually part of its strength. It is a good fit for those who value calm stability and a life that isn't constantly pushed forward. If you appreciate quiet surroundings, personal time, and a slower pace, Slovakia can feel surprisingly comfortable. The country is especially well suited for older adults and those who no longer want to live under constant pressure or competition. Remote workers and retirees often value the reasonable cost of living, accessible healthcare, and an environment calm enough to focus on well-being rather than status. Here you don't need to show off to feel that you are living well. On the other hand, Slovakia may not be the right choice if you are looking to get rich quickly or chase constant excitement. If you need a 24/7 nightlife scene or expect to function entirely in English without facing any language barriers, you may find the experience limiting. Slovakia does not try to be everything to everyone, and that makes it an honest place to ask yourself what you truly want from the next chapter of life. Slovakia does not promise a glamorous life. It doesn't sell dreams of getting rich quickly, nor does it try to become another version of Europe. This is not a place built on big promises, but on quiet, steady choices that last. Yet Slovakia offers what more and more people are searching for today: a slower pace of life, a greater sense of safety, and enough space to truly listen to yourself. Here, life doesn't need to be loud to be meaningful, and you don't have to run endlessly just to feel that you're moving in the right direction. Perhaps the final question isn't, is Slovakia good or not, but rather, are you looking for a life with more, or a life that feels lighter? Sometimes the answer isn't about changing the world around you, but about choosing a place that allows you to live at your own rhythm. If this story made you think, consider hitting the like button to support honest storytelling like this. And if you'd like to keep exploring peaceful countries and alternative ways of living without hype or exaggeration, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. We still have many places to discover together.